What's going on, guys? It's Mdog5 and welcome back to another video. Yes, I know it's been a little bit, but listen, we're back. We're here. That's all that counts. All right. So for today's subject, okay, we're going to be talking about not my absence, but Splatoon 3. Now, a lot of people have been going around and saying that they're worried about Splatoon 3 and they just really don't want it to look too similar to Splatoon 2, obviously implying that Splatoon 3 right now looks really similar to Splatoon 2, and I for one thought the exact same thing. Yeah, I agree. That was until I saw the first reveal trailer about a minute and 30 seconds in, where the Inklings literally spawn in using floating washing machines. So the people that are accusing Splatoon 3 of being too similar to Splatoon 2, have been catching some flack, and that's good and everything, but not in the right areas, okay? And that's where I'm coming in with this video. So you might have remembered, and you also might not have remembered, a video of mine that I posted about Splatoon 3. It's my most popular Splatoon video, but it basically just detailed a bunch of changes that I want to see in Splatoon 3, and of those changes, I said that I want Splatoon 3 to be Splatoon 3 and not Splatoon 2.5. So you might be wondering, oh, how is that different from any of these people's takes, or what changed your mind since then, And I'm going to explain, all right? Now, when we talk about Splatoon 2, we're talking about a very fun game, right? To me, at least, and to a lot of other people. It's a third-person shooter, but it's creative, and it breaks from the norm. It's colorful, it's fast, high intensity. It's a really fun game. But let's be honest, I mean, whether you're a casual gamer or a professional Splatoon 2 player, I think that we can all agree that Splatoon 2 isn't really a well put together game externally. And what I mean by that is Nintendo does a very shitty job in supporting the game's infrastructure. Getting into specifics, you have the hit detection. It's absolutely atrocious. Then you have things like the connection. Now, I can understand if you have subpar internet, but in my case, and this has happened on multiple occasions, I will get disconnected from the internet while having my Ethernet cable plugged into my Nintendo Switch. Multiple occasions, And of course, it was a much bigger problem when I didn't have the Ethernet cable, but I bought the Ethernet cable so I would stop disconnecting from the games, and, on occasion, you will still disconnect despite having Ethernet plugged in to your Nintendo Switch, which is absolutely ridiculous. And it's also a testament to how bad the connection is, because you'll hear, stories about people's connection being horrible. And of course, there's nothing wrong with my internet even before I had Ethernet plugged into my Switch. There's absolutely nothing wrong with my internet, and you would still disconnect from the match. That's just, my little rant about connection. But, the problems don't really end there. The input delay is something that you're really gonna have to get used to, because it's horrible. And it's even worse if you play on multiple different platforms like the PlayStation, Xbox. I have a PC. So yeah, it's definitely something that you're gonna have to get accustomed to. And even if you don't have, those systems to compare it to, you press B to jump and shit will happen like it literally feels like a second later. So it's definitely something that you're just gonna have to get accustomed to. And by the numbers, it's a very small difference, but like by the numbers, apparently it's worse than Splatoon 1 on the Nintendo Wii U, and I for one am not surprised, because the input delay is absolutely crazy, and it doesn't only affect your movement, it definitely affects your aim as well. The last big one that we'll get into today is tick rate, and the best way that I can explain it is through an example, right? So you remember playing Call of Duty, and say you ran past a wall, then you suddenly died, right? And then on the enemy's kill cam, you saw that they killed you before you ran past the wall. Yeah, that's bad tick rate. Basically what's happening on your screen is inconsistent with what's happening on the other player's screen. And that's a big problem in Splatoon 2. Now, another thing that I want to get into real quick is Nintendo's lack of support for the game media-wise. Now, I'm not saying that they don't post about the game on Twitter or whatever, they do that. But what I'm about to say really plays into, the little things that Nintendo doesn't do. So for instance, there's no party system on the Nintendo Switch, which is atrocious. I mean, we've had party systems since Xbox 360, and that's what, 15, 16 years old. You know, like every system needs a party system. You need to be able to communicate with the friends that you make on, you know, the platforms, especially with online games when you have a plethora of online titles on your platform. Not having a party system is ridiculous. And the fact that Splatoon 2 is, you know, Nintendo's biggest multiplayer online game, like, how is there no way to communicate with other people? You know, people have to set up events through Twitter, and they have to talk to other people through, like, Discord and whatnot. Like, do you know how inconvenient it is, like I said, to use anything other than the headphone jack on your Nintendo Switch to talk to people? And, you know, game chat, you know, is something, you know, that not a lot of people in the community want, which, you know, I agree with, but party chat should absolutely be in the Nintendo Switch. That being said, it's not a surprise that, you know, the media doesn't really know too much about Splatoon 2 because, you know, we can't even communicate to each other. How are we going to communicate to other people? And if you look outside our bubble that is the Splatoon 2 community, which is relatively small, mind you, compared to other gaming communities, you know, you really see the disinterest that it generates to, you know, a lot of other people. And I think that's Nintendo's fault. You know what I mean? Because how do you have a game that sold over 12 million units and there's 2,000 people at most watching it worldwide across all platforms? Maybe like 800 on a good day on Twitch, the biggest streaming platform. You know, that's unacceptable. And so it kind of goes into the notion that we were going to get more support from Nintendo. For instance, when we saw the reveal trailer, we saw, you know, that Splatoon 2 was an e-sport and whatnot. And then by the time the game actually came out, when it was actually time to do the work, Nintendo, where are our competitive events? Where are our tournaments? Oh, okay, you have some that, you know, you post on YouTube, but, like, how do you qualify for that? You know what I mean? Like, the players, like, the bulk of the tournaments are, like, player-driven, which is crazy, you know what I'm saying? You don't see games like Fortnite, you know, like, they have their own tournaments, and I hate to even utter that. I hate to pronounce that word, Fortnite. Ew. Ugh. Oh, that game is. Ooh, I'm sorry, but I mean that's what happens when you fail to deliver a promise, you know. But imagine if FNCS was player driven, had to be player driven. Imagine if, you know, all these the fucking tournaments in Fortnite, you know, do you think those are player driven? Do you think people in the Fortnite community get together on Twitter and Discord and organize events for $80 incentives at most? You know, they have their, like, imagine Fortnite doing that. Now you have a much bigger company, a much than Epic Games, Nintendo, and you can't even provide your players with tournaments. I mean, you do, but they're very rare, one, and they're very incoherent, you know, and the system in which the game runs off of, meaning the party system and the communication system, makes even doing that, you know, even the player-driven tournaments, you know, very, very hard. Like it's very inconvenient. It's a very big hassle to, you know, organize and join these events. First of all, you're gonna have to get, you know, 3 other players. You're gonna have to meet 3 other players. You all have to have Discord. You all have to, you know, join some other. I don't even know. It's like you have to join, you know, a cult to figure out how to get into a Splatoon 2 tournament. Or like, okay, Shendo Q is apparently a better ranking system than the X ranking system. Okay, how do you get into it? Oh, steps 15, steps 16, like all this extra shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. And yes, it's Nintendo's fault. So I say all of this to say, will Splatoon 3 mitigate these problems? And if they don't, that's what I consider Splatoon 2.5. You might have heard me during my Splatoon 3 reaction, my initial reaction, right? Oh, this is DLC. This is DLC. In the back of my head, I knew that it was Splatoon 3, obviously, you know. It looks different enough from Splatoon 2. Anyways, you know, I just said, you know, it's DLC because I just couldn't imagine a whole new game coming out on the same platform that Splatoon 2 is on, because I mean, let's be real, you know, I talked about the tick rate, I talked about the shitty infrastructure of online, you know, half of that, you know, Nintendo can fix, but like the other half, we're playing on a Nintendo Switch, okay? Now, I talked about the input delay, and I know that that is holistically due to the fact that Splatoon 2 is running off of the Nintendo Switch being the weakest piece of hardware in the past 2 generations of consoles, you know? So I was just surprised that, you know, Splatoon 3 was coming out on the Nintendo Switch, and I know that these issues, you know, some of them just aren't going to be mitigated. Like, Splatoon 3 is probably going to have shitty input delay. Like, I'm sorry. It's probably going to happen. But, I mean, can we get a party system? Can we get, you know, tournaments? Can we get that proper support that we need from Nintendo? Because right now, what are we talking about? Oh, Splatoon 3 looks too similar to Splatoon 2. There are new weapons, there are new maps, there are new special abilities, new sub-abilities. I hate to break it to you, but in Splatoon 2's case, that's a sequel. That qualifies for a new game, okay? What I'm worried about is if I'm going to be able to talk to my teammates when I try to play League Play. If there is a tournament, do I have a fair shot at entering, or am I going to have to do all this extra shit? Am I going to be disconnecting from matches left and right? That's what I'm worried about. I don't even know why this is a discussion, you know, because on top of what I just said, we have even more new features seemingly, like new customization options, new movement options. I mean, come on. I mean, we're kind of wasting our time with this discussion while we should be holding Nintendo accountable. We should be asking, hey, Nintendo, how's the player experience going to be this time around? Is it going to be smooth, or is it going to be rough like in Splatoon 2? Because the way I see it, a Splatoon 2.5 is a new Splatoon game that's put on the Nintendo Switch that has the same online infrastructure problems, the same connection issues, the same, you know, lack of communication issues. That's Splatoon 2.5 to me, you know, and that's something that I feel as though is a much more important discussion than, oh, does Splatoon 3 look similar to Splatoon 2? Now, if we were talking about Salmon Run, the next wave, okay, that looks way too similar to Salmon Run, okay? That is completely understandable. You know, that looks like a carbon copy with new enemies, and like that's ridiculous. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. And that's such a letdown too, because we had Save Our Salmons. I made the whole theory and whatnot, and you know, it literally just looks like a carbon copy of Splatoon 2 Salmon Run with some new bosses and whatnot. But that's not what we're talking about. That's not what the community is talking about. And even if that was what the community was talking about, that again is kind of unproductive too, because that's kind of like, you know, just a Call of Duty, another Call of Duty analogy. That's like comparing, you know, the co-op mode, talking about the Spec Ops mode in Modern Warfare 2022 rather than worrying about the multiplayer or the Warzone game mode for the upcoming Modern Warfare game. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's just my take on everything, guys. We need to start focusing on what really matters, which is, you know, the online infrastructure, the communication, you know, the support that Nintendo is going to give this game. Or is it just, you know, just like another Splatoon 2 game that's going to have terrible connection, that's going to have no means of communication? You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm worried about, and that's what I think that we should start focusing our attention on. But anyways, that's it for me. Thanks for watching the video, and there will be more soon. I promise. Okay, we're gonna go crazy. You know, we just have to figure out. You know, I don't know how y'all niggas are gonna get videos out of me when I'm in college. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm playing. I'll make videos while I'm in college. Okay, all right. I love you guys, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.